Hey guys, Karibo Bros here, and we've got a Fluffal deck profile for today. So Fluffal got support like 4 months ago when Rise of the Duels first came out, and the deck's been playable since that support came out. So previously, Fluffal had to play like really janky cards like King of the Swamp, which could be discarded to search polymerization just to add more consistency to the deck. Obviously, we don't play that anymore, but I do actually still see builds playing that just to get to polymerization as quickly as possible and as often as possible, because polymerization is so key in this deck, obviously with it being a fusion heavy deck. The deck's really fun. I was quite surprised by how expensive some of the cards are in this deck actually, but the new support at least is very cheap. It's all common. I was actually quite disappointed that Frightfur Cruel Whale never got a super, because yeah, that would have been nice. But anyway, Fluffal is really enjoyable. It's got a great combo where you can set up VFD, Appaloosa and a Toad turn 1, and then if you go second, you do still have the ability to OTK your opponent through stuff like Sabertooth, Kraken, Wolf, and Tiger. Yeah, so the deck's quite versatile in that way. So I'm going to walk you through the list, tell you what I play, and explain the ratios. So firstly, play 3 copies of Dog. So Dog is the Stratos of the deck. When it's normal summoned, you can add any Fluffal or an Edge Imp Sabres from your deck to your hand. It's 1700 beta. As I say, yeah, it is just the Stratos of the deck, so we play 3. Moving on, we play 3 copies of Bear because we want to see Toy Vendor as much as possible. Tell you what, opening 2 copies of Toy Vendor is actually really good, because you can activate Toy Vendor, discard the other Toy Vendor to use the effect of Vendor to mill the top card of your deck and hope it's a Fluffal monster to special summon. But even then, just discarding that second copy of Toy Vendor gets you a search of a Edge Imp Sabres or a Fluffal monster. So Fluffal Bear because we want to see a way to Toy Vendor as early and quickly as possible. 3 copies of one of the new cards, well, the newer cards, Fluffal Dolphin. So this card enables your combos. It enables your Wings combo. So when it's summoned, you can target one Toy Vendor in your graveyard and set it, and then you can either send you can either send an Edge Imp Sabres or a Fluffal monster from your deck to the graveyard. So if we set the Toy Vendor, we'll then send Fluffal Wings to graveyard. And if we have another Fluffal monster in grave, we can use the effect of Wings to banish itself and the other Fluffal monster to draw 2, destroy the Toy Vendor, which will then give us a search. Obviously, Toy Vendor's not once per turn, which is absolutely amazing for this deck. 3 copies of Fluffle Penguin. I have seen a lot of people playing this at 2, and I think that's wrong. Fluffle Penguin's really good. You want to see this in your opening hand. It lets you draw 2, then discard 1 when you fusion summon. It's a water that lets you special summon another one from hand. So even in the worst case scenarios of hands, you could maybe normal this, special a Dolphin, get the effect of Dolphin. But at the very least, this card can be a Toad by itself. But I really like 3 copies of Penguin. You do a lot of drawing in this deck. This deck's quite unique in the sense that it doesn't have a 2-card combo. It has so many different cards in it that a combination of drawing 2 or 3 of X amount of cards gets you in various ways to combo. So 3 copies of this card because you want to see it. Initially, I was playing 3 copies of Fluffal Wings because I was like, oh, it would be good to open, you can discard it, you can get it engraved as soon as possible, but we're usually going to search it and we're usually going to send it off Dolphins. So 2 copies of Wings, obviously it's once per turn as well, so we'll use it going first to draw, dig into the deck, hope to see cards like Polymerization to set up combo, as I said. And then turn 2, if it's in the grave, or if we can get it into grave again, it just enables us to draw another 2 and support our OTK play. Well, I say OTK, our second turn play to just wipe our opponent out by summoning cards like Tiger, Sabertooth, etc. Onto the extenders, play 1 copy each of Fluffal Owl. When this card is normal or special summoned from the hand, you can add 1 polymerization from your deck to your hand. Or you can pay 500 life points to fusion summon with this card. So you get to use one effect or the other per turn. So I mean, as I say, it's a good extender, gets the poly. Sheep. Now, I really do like Sheep, and it's I'll come into it further into the deck profile, but you can easily make an argument for playing this at 2. I think at 3 it did brick too much. I'm playing it at 1 now, but only because I've changed the list. I wouldn't be surprised if I do take this back to 2 copies though, because opening it is really cool. Obviously, you can special summon this card if you control another Fluffal monster. Then you can return a Fluffal monster from your side of the field to your hand to special summon an Edge Imp monster from your hand or graveyard, so we can summon back like Sabers from the grave after we've already used the effect to special summon itself back. We can summon Chain back, and then if we haven't already used the effect of Chain, we can link Chain off with this, make like a cross sheep, and then get a search from Chain. Lastly, 1 copy of Fluffle Cat. You'll search this if you need to keep polymerization. So if you've opened really badly, we can use polymerization with Fluffle Cat. Fluffle Cat's effect will activate, adding us the polymerization back. So if we've opened 2 sort of edge imp cards, or if we've opened a Sabers or way 2 Sabers and we can bring Sabers back, we can activate the second polymerization, make a second Fright Fair Cruel Whale, and at least make a VFD. So yeah, just recycling the polymerization is really cool. So play that at 1. 3 copies of the best edge imp monster, Edge Imp Chains. So when this card declares an attack, you can add 1 Edge Imp Chain from your deck to your hand. That never comes up, like never. It's the second effect we're really interested in. If this card is sent from your hand or field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Fright Fair card from your deck to your hand. You can only activate 1 Edge Imp Chain, 1 effective Edge Imp Chain once per turn. So we can link this off, we can fusion this, we can discard this, and we'll add either like Fright Fair Fusion or Fright Fair Patchwork. Fright Fair Fusion obviously lets us fusion summon with by banishing from the graveyard, and Fright Fair Patchwork adds us an Edge Imp monster and a polymerization. So this card can be a +1. I do play 2 copies of Edge Imp Scythe. I might take this down to 1, and again I'll get into the reason for that later. It's a hand trap. It lets us fuse in our opponent's turn, which obviously then we can summon a Cruel Whale and use Cruel Whale's effect. If we've set up a toy vendor, we can pop the toy vendor and pop a card they have to then get a search of toy vendor. It also, I think the best part of this card is actually that it just gives protection to a Fright Fair Fusion monster when it's in the graveyard. So if it would be destroyed, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. Yeah, very iffy on the card. Was playing it at 3 and just didn't like it at 3. Played it at 1 and it just didn't seem enough. But playing it at 2 and it seems okay. It just seems to doesn't make hands better unless, yeah, it doesn't add anything to your hand. So if you open this, you need a poor hand. You need to see another Edge Imp monster just so you can make a VFD. So it's a hand trap, which takes us to 5 because we play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. But there is a argument for not playing any hand traps at all and just focusing purely on the engine to get the combo out, which is say ends up with VFD, Appaloosa on 3 and a Toad. So yeah, you could cut this to 1. I'm playing 2 for now. I might cut it to 1. 1 copy of Edge Imp Sabers. Now, again, this card, I'm half tempted to play 2 of this card. Now I know you're thinking, well, why would you play this at 2? It's the worst one, and you can search it with so many cards. Yeah, you can search it with so many cards, and it can bring itself back. But it's a lot of the cards, like a lot of your older Fluffle fusions require this to be fused with, so you could only use Fright Fair Fusion with this once. Obviously, it has the ability to bring itself back from the graveyard, but you can search it multiple times in one turn. So if you've already got the Fluffle monsters in hand, maybe you could think, oh, I could add another Edge Imp card to get a fusion monster, well, then you can add this. So I'm half tempted to play this at 2, but for now it's at 1. Moving on, playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Now, I did say there is an argument for not playing any hand traps in this deck at all. Well, you keep the 1 copy of Edge Imp Scythe, which is an inherent hand trap. But if you wanted to solely just try and go first every time, I'd recommend taking these out, putting in copies of other cards. So you could either, if you've got money, which I don't, you could run the Magician Soul package, because summoning souls and sending Toy Vendor is just so good. It's like a +3 at times, and it's just really cool and just gets you further into your combo and makes your deck more consistent. If you didn't want to play hand traps, you could take these out. You could play a 2nd copy of Fluffle Sheep. You could play a 2nd copy of Sabers, and you could just play more toolbox cards, which I'll get into further. 3 copies of Toy Vendor, best card in the deck. As I say, if you could open 2 of this, it'd be great. So once per turn, you can discard 1 card, draw 1 card, and reveal it. If it's a Fluffle monster, you can special summon it. So you can special summon 1 monster from your hand, otherwise discard the card you drew. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Edge Imp Sabers or 1 Fluffle monster from your deck to your hand. So we've got 6 search cards. We've got Fluffle Dog and Toy Vendor, and they can all search Sabers, which is maybe why I'm debating on playing a 2nd copy of Sabers. Obviously, it says once per turn. It's once per turn per copy of the card on the field, a bit like how A, B, and C in ABC are all once per turn. So you activate this card. If this card goes to the graveyard, you manage to reset it off like Dolphin, you can activate it again and get the effect. 3 copies of Polymerization, because, as I say, poly is key. We need to see 2 Fright Fair Cruel Whale going first. So Polymerization is a really good card. 2 copies of Fright Fair Patchwork, because it's a +1 and it searches a poly. So we play 9 ways to search Saber. We play this as well. So obviously Fright Fair Patchwork searches Polymerization and can then search an Edge Imp monster from your deck to your hand. I see a lot of decks only playing 1 copy of Fright Fair Fusion, which I believe is wrong. I really do like Fright Fair Fusion. Now, Yu-Gi-Oh does go past turn 2. Like, going third, sorry, going second, well, going first, but on your second turn, obviously turn 3. This card is so good. It's like, if you're in the situation where you've done your VFD and maybe or even if you have just ended on VFD, your opponent's not done much, they've set a card, they've passed to you, you know, you can OTK with this card, the Fright Fair Fusion. You can banish X amount of Fluffals and then Edge Imp Sabers. You can summon Wolf and get so many attacks, and you can summon out Sabers and get so many pops. I mean, opening this card's not bad either, but I don't want to play it at 3 because it does Membrick. But opening just an Edge Imp monster, a Fluffal, a Poly, and this. I mean, I know that's 4 cards, but that gets you VFD at the very least. That's the easiest way to get VFD, but depending on those other cards you drew, you can do so much more with those cards. Moving on, playing 2 copies of Foolish Burial of Goods. Now, this is another card you could up to 3. If you don't want to play hand traps, you could up this to 3. If, as I say, if you didn't want to play the hand traps, you could also play the Magician's Soul package, which is a lot of money and probably won't be getting played in this deck by me, at least until we get Legendary Duelist 3, until I get to the point where I'm only paying £25 per copy for Magician's Soul. Last card in the deck, Fright Fair Repair. Target 1 Fright Fair monster in your graveyard. Sorry, target 1 Fright Fair Fusion monster in your graveyard, return to the extra deck, then special summon 1 Fluffal or Edge Imp monster from your graveyard. Now, I think I've played loads of games with Fluffals recently, and I've used that effect once. It's the second effect that we really cared about, getting this card into graveyard. So if this card is in the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon 1 Fluffal or Edge Imp monster from your hand. You can only use this effect of Fright Fair Repair once per turn, and only once that turn. So the most common ways to send this is discarding it off vendor if we've opened it, or sending it off Fright Fair Cruel Whale. And as I say, we banish it. It allows us to give it a special summon. More often than not, when we're doing combo, the special summon is going to be a Dolphin, and the Dolphin will reset Toy Vendor, which will then send the Wings, and it'll help us draw cards. So very good. I've seen decks playing 2 of it, but I think I'd rather play the second copy of Fright Fair Fusion than the second copy of Fright Fair Repair. So that's a 40 card list in the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. You play 3 copies of Fright Fair Cruel Whale. This card's so good. But this card is so good because it can make VFD, which obviously, the best card, arguably the best deck in the format just sets up VFD. So we can set up VFD ourselves. Fright Fair Cruel Whale. It's 1 Edge Imp monster and 1 Fluffal monster, so we're not bound to as a lot of the older Fluffal monsters are, where it has to be Edge Imp Saber specifically. So if this card is Fusion Summon, you can destroy 1 card on both players' fields. Once per turn, quick effect, you can target 1 Fusion monster you control, send 1 Fright Fair card from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, the targeted monster gains gains attack equal to half its attack to the end of the turn. So when we summon this, we can use its effect to send Fright Fair Repair. So then use that effect, we can use the effect to send Fright Fair Repair. To then obviously use that effect later on in the turn to special summon a monster from hand. But then this goes from 2/6 to 3/9. So it becomes a very big body which can beat over a lot of opponents' boss monsters. The effect to pop on summon doesn't come up a lot. Well, I mean, if you're in first, it's not really going to come up. If you summon it in your opponent's turn, obviously then it will come up. We would then want to pop something like a Toy Vendor. So we'll pop our Toy Vendor, pop one of theirs, and we'll get a search out of it. Moving on, we play 1 copy of Fright Fair Kraken. This is 1 Edge Imp monster and 1 Fluffal monster. Once per turn, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. If you do, this card cannot attack directly this turn. It can still attack, it just can't attack directly. This card can make a second attack during each battle phase. Once per turn at the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, you can turn it to defense mode. So it's a bit like Dante in that regard. It just switches itself to the defense and has a 3k booty. 1 copy of Fright Fair Sabertooth. This is a really nice card. I was playing it at 2 originally. I mean, I've seen a lot of combo decks online where people will play these 2 cards, they'll play 2 of this and play 1 of these, and they'll end like a Hope Harbinger, but I don't think that's necessarily that good going first, at least in this format, where most decks are playing 20 plus monsters, do you know what I mean, where spells aren't as important. But you can always change the deck around if you did want to play Hope Harbinger. So any Fright for Sabretooth, 1 Fright for Fusion monster plus 1 or more Fluffle and or Edge Imp monster. So basically it's a fusion and a Fluffle or an Edge Imp. When this card is a fusion summon, you can target 1 Fright Fair monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So obviously, if you wanted to make Hope Harbinger, you'd summon this, bring back the Kraken, and overlay those 2 for the Harbinger. All Fright Fair monsters you control gain 400 attack. If this card was fusion summoned using 3 or more Fluffle monsters, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So it becomes like a bit of a boss monster in the sense that, like, if it goes to 2/8 naturally because of its own effect, and then it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. So that's cool. It's niche. Ooh, knock the camera. As I say, more often than not, we make this turn 3. We don't make this turn 1 an awful lot of the time. Then for the last 2 Fluffle and the last 2 Fright Fair fusion monsters, we play 1 copy each of Fright Fair Wolf and Fright Fair Tiger. Obviously, these 2 cards like steal games going on turn 3 if we've gone first. Fright Fair Wolf, Edge Imp Sabers plus 1 or more Fluffle, and Fright Fair Tiger is also Edge Imp Sabers plus 1 or more Fluffle. It's another reason why I kind of want to play another Sabers, is because if we say use Fright Fair Fusions to banish the Sabers to summon one of these, then like we don't have access to the second one because we banished the Sabers. So anyway, Wolf gains extra attacks equal to the number of like fusion materials. So it's obviously Sabers plus X amount of Fluffles. So if we use Sabers and 2 Fluffles, I'll get 3 attacks, and that's 6,000 points worth of damage. Fright Fair Tiger, it gets to pop cards on your opponent's side of the field up to the number of fusion materials used for this. So like, it's not uncommon to literally summon Tiger turn 3 and have like an Edge Imp monster, maybe even 3 Fluffles, so you can get to pop up to like 4 cards your opponent controls and then just attack them directly. So as I say, the deck can still like have some sort of OTK potential to it. 1 copy of VFD, because just not letting our opponent play Yu-Gi-Oh for a turn is absolutely great, and it helps us set up like going for lethal in turn 3. 1 copy each of Bahamut Shark and Totally Awesome. I have seen quite a few people, I've seen quite a few lists playing 2 Bahamut Shark, because obviously Toad can add itself back, and then like turn 3 you could maybe make a second Bahamut Shark and summon Toad back out again, which is cool. It's something I'll test again in the future, but at the moment I'm happy with 1 of each. Onto the Link monsters. 1 copy of Bobblesaw Dragon, because it just helps push the game. If you don't have a Bobblesaw Dragon, I don't know, whatever Link 4 boss monster you want, you could play Bobblesaw, you could play, I don't know, just anything. I mean, Bobblesaur's cool, as I say, it just helps push the game. You need to have this copy. You need to have this card in the deck, Appaloosa. Setting this up with 3 negates as part of the combo. So as I say, we end on VFD and Appaloosa with a Toad. You need to play this. The card's not as expensive anymore. I think it's like maybe £10, or whatever that is in dollars, $15, $14. It's key to the deck. You have to play this, I think, if you're going to play Fluffle. Yeah, I think it's maybe the most expensive card in the deck. Obviously, a lot of the deck comes in super uncommon, so you have to play this, unfortunately. Nightmare Unicorn, there was a pricey card until it recently got the reprint in Genesis Impact. It's just the compulse, isn't it? We just discard a card and bounce a card back to our opponent's hand. Oh, sorry, back to our opponent's deck. Then 1 copy each of Link's 2's IP Masquerader and Cross Sheep. So Cross Sheep's like key for the combo. So when we fusion summon like our second Fright Fair Whale to zone this points to, this will reborn a level 4 lower monster in our graveyard. More often than not, we're going to reborn Penguin, and then we'll use the effect of Fright Fair Repair in the graveyard to special summon the Dolphin from hand, and then use those 2 to overlay into Bahamut Shark, detach for Bahamut Shark, summon out, Totally Awesome. And yeah, it's just an extender. It's a good extender. That's the main deck. This deck, as I say, does not have like a 2 or a 3 card combo. It relies on like what card you draw and how you combo to do combos. So I haven't got a combo tutorial next. I've got 5 test hands, I think it is. So just watch the test hands, see what you get, like, and then you'll see how to combo with the deck. Thanks for watching.